The man who spearheaded a global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality and appointed America's first openly gay cabinet member is a homophobe. The man who negotiated four historic peace agreements and managed to avoid having to go to war against a NATO ally is a warmonger. The man who wants to bring troops home does not value the U.S. military. The man who fixed the VA thinks people wounded or killed in war are losers and suckers. The man who increased funding for black colleges and universities and locked it in for 10 years hates black people. The man who created opportunity zones to revitalize distressed communities hates minorities. The man who champions school choice hates the poor. The man who presided over the biggest 3-year increase in median household earnings in decades hates the middle class. The man who began closing the wealth gap is only in it for his own financial gain. The man who reduced our dependence on communist China and stood up for Hong Kong and Taiwan hates democracy. The man who reopened the Iron Range and created hundreds of thousands of high-paying resource jobs hates the working class. The first man in American history whose net worth went down while he was president is a greedy fat cat. The man who instituted prison reform and criminal justice reform is a racist sociopath. The man who had a record number of small donations to his campaign and funded much of it with his own money is a Wall Street shill. The man who doesn't take a salary as president is not paying his fair share. The man who made the RNC cheer after pledging to protect the safety of LGBTQ Americans is anti-queer. The man who moved the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and whose daughter converted to Judaism so she could marry a Jewish man is a Nazi. The man who followed the Constitution and allowed the states to generate their own coronavirus policy failed on coronavirus. The man who presided over the single largest quarterly rise in GDP in history is destroying the economy. The man who has tolerated the most unfair, dishonest, and negative media coverage in the history of this country and yet made himself more available to the press and the people than any other president is a fascist. The man who told his supporters to vote in person so there'd be no cheating is trying to steal the election. The man who wants to take his case to court and let the court decide is a dictator.